Hello, today we're going to talk about weight and changes in weight on a short-term basis. Okay, now I don't believe that your scale weight is a particularly important gauge of your success in terms of fat loss or body comp changes, but it can be a very useful tool to help you gauge whether your nutrition, your training, your sleep and stress management are all going in the right direction to give you the result that you want in the long run. It's not uncommon though over short time periods to see big fluctuations in your scale weight. Okay, it can shift 2 or 3 pounds in the course of 24 hours, and that can be a source of stress and anxiety for some people. Okay, this is particularly going to happen probably on a Monday morning. So if you weigh yourself on a Monday, if you've had a particularly big weekend of eating that's maybe a little out of normal, it'll look like you've gained a significant amount of body fat, 2 or 3 pounds of body fat, but that is very unlikely, okay? Because to gain a pound of body fat, you have to eat in excess of 3,500 calories more than you would on any given day. And in fact, the number is probably higher. It's probably more like 3,007, 3,008 by the time you factor in the calorie cost of digesting and processing foods. Increased energy availability tends to make you move more. So you're probably talking, if you've gained 3 pounds, you're probably talking between 10 and 12,000 calories extra across a couple of days. Trust me, that is incredibly difficult to do. And if you've only just overeaten at a couple of meals, there's no way you've done anything like that. Okay, so what we're going to look at is the three typical sources of short-term weight gain and what to expect in the days after you notice a change in your weight. The first one is increased glycogen storage. Okay, now if you eat an excess of carbs and you've done any kind of activity, your glycogen storage will deplete slightly. That gets refilled. So think about your muscles and your liver as batteries. Those get topped back up with glycogen. Associated with that glycogen storage is between 3 and 5 grams of water weight, okay, as part of the storage process. So if you gain, say, 40 grams of glycogen storage, you could add another 120 grams of water weight associated with that. It gives you about 150 grams or so of glycogen storage, 160 grams of glycogen storage, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it can reflect quite big on the scale. Okay. Once you get moving again, you start to burn through some of that glycogen, and those numbers will come down again. All right. The second one is other sources of water weight gain. So if you have an increase in salt intake, if you're more stressed than normal, if you're more tired than normal, these tend to result in an excess of water weight being stored. And again, once things settle down, if your sodium intake drops, if your stress comes under control, if you get a couple of good nights sleep, that water weight tends to disappear. And over a few days, the scale numbers come down again, and it all kind of equalizes and normalizes over time. Okay, so the first one is glycogen storage. Okay, so if you've had an increase in carbs, you're going to get some glycogen storage and water weight associated with that. Other sources of water weight are increased sodium, increased stress, lack of sleep. Okay. With both of those, or with all of those options, if you get back on track with your diet and you get back on track with your sleep and your stress management, you should notice within 3 or 4 days your weight normalizes back to where it was, maybe even a little bit lower if it's going back into a calorie deficit. Okay, so it's nothing to worry about. The final source of increased short-term increases in weight comes from food volume. So if you, for example, weigh yourself every morning at 7 a.m. and the night before you had a particularly large meal, significantly bigger than what you would normally have had, it'll take longer for you to digest. So at that 7 o'clock mark in the morning, you're still going to have more food volume inside you than you would normally have at that time. You've not gone to the toilet yet, so you haven't pooped it all out. You're going to weigh more. All right, it's nothing to stress about. Take it easy, relax about these things. What you're more interested in is, rather than the day-to-day changes, which can look very chaotic and kind of up and down all over the place, look at it on week-to-week or month-to-month comparisons. Okay, so if you compare every Monday what would happen? You're going to see an overall downward trend. Okay, if you look at it on a monthly basis, that downward trend is typically going to be bigger. Okay, so rather than focusing on short-term, day-to-day changes, look at long-term changes. Make sure you're being consistent with your sleep, consistent with your nutrition, consistent with your daily movement. And if you're doing all of those three things, short-term fluctuations don't matter. It's the long-term ones that are going to reflect your true progress. Okay, so hopefully that helps put your mind at ease if you're noticing short-term weight changes. And if you have any questions on this or on any other topic, you know what to do. Get in touch and I will be happy to help. Take it easy.